Well, good morning. And I wanted just to start by wishing all our friends who are going to be at the EBTA, the EBTA conference in Florence this next weekend, our very best wishes. Really, all of us at Brief hope that you have a great time, and we're sure you will. Now, the theme of the conference, the title of the conference, As If, sparked off a whole lot of thoughts and memories, in fact, for me. The memories came first. As if it reminded me, the phrase, of the time when Chris Iveson, Harvey Ratner and I were working in a mental health service in the National Health Service in the UK back in the early 1980s. And the clinic got really interested in the work of those great, I would say, Italian pioneers of systemic psychotherapy, of family therapy. The team from Milan, Mara Selvini Palazzoli, Luigi Boscolo, Gianfranco Cecchin, and Giuliana Prata. And they were people who made a huge difference, a huge impact on our work back then, and the whole field of family therapy and systemic psychotherapy back then. But as we began to experiment with their thinking, and we began to get more and more interested in the process of hypothesizing, I remember Boscolo and Cecchin coming to visit us in London. And what they helped us to do was just to realize that we weren't dealing with realities when we were in the process of hypothesizing. That actually there were no truth claims here. We were organizing our work and thinking about the work we did in the as-if world. What if we thought about the way things were functioning in the family like this? Where would that lead us in our thinking and our intervention? And so already back in those days, they were inviting us to hold on to reality, as it were, if we want to use that word, lightly in that sense. So the title of the conference reminded me of that. And following from that, I began to think about, and of course it's very appropriate since just last week was the anniversary of Steve de Shazer's death, the 11th of September. But it reminded me of Steve's fascination with, his love for tasks at the end of sessions. And one of his favourite tasks was, as it were, an as-if task, a pretend task, when he would say to people, perhaps, for the first half hour of every day next week, what I'd like you to do is to pretend that the miracle has happened. And watch out for what difference that makes to the rest of the day. So obviously if we said to people, you know, we want you to solve your problem, they would say, we can't. But when he said to people, we want you to pretend to behave as if the problem was solved, then of course people could. And then they could notice what difference it made. So that as if idea was there, rooted in Steve's thinking about therapy and sorts of interventions that he liked to use. Now, of course, those tasks are things that certainly Chris Harvey and I have pretty well stopped using in the way that Steve de Shazer and Insoo Kim Berg and the early pioneers of solution-focused brief therapy did. But the as-if idea lives on in all sorts of ways and is reflected in all sorts of ways in our work. When I sit down with someone, when I meet someone for the first time, the as-if is very present. I meet them, I connect with them, you could say I treat them as if they already have all the capacities to move their lives forward, all the competencies, the strengths, the skills, the resources, the talents that they might need in order to make the changes that they would want in their lives. Now, of course, when I meet people for the first time, I can't possibly know whether that's true. How could I know whether indeed they do or not? But what I do is behave as if they do. And what I notice is that if I can behave as if my clients indeed have all those competencies, those capacities, those abilities, those talents, then the talents seem subsequently to emerge into the talking. So the evidence of the talents arrives following the assumption. The evidence backfills the assumption that I've chosen to make. So where else does this as-ifness turn up? Look, when I meet people, I choose to believe. I behave as if I believe that they are indeed the experts in their own lives. I act as if only they can tell me what it is they want, and only they can describe the life that contains it, and only they will know the best way of moving forward. I choose to act as if all those things are true. Whether they are or not is something else. However, I choose to take those assumptions into the room with me, because when I do, it seems to be associated with actually better outcomes. Where else? Well, look, I think as if turns up elsewhere as well, in perhaps more subtle, maybe, perhaps more difficult to explain ways, more difficult to lay out clearly. When we ask people the best hopes question at the beginning of a piece of work, what are your best hopes from our talking together? How could you know that this talking had been of use to you? When we ask people that, and they answer, they give us an outcome. I act as if, I talk as if the outcome they've described is the outcome that they indeed want, and how they will know, that's a better way to put it, how they will know that they're ready to end therapy, or to end the intervention, to end coaching, to end counselling, whatever it is that we happen to be doing. So I behave as if it is indeed true. That is what they want. However, of course, we can't know what the client will end up being satisfied with. Look, it may be exactly what they described in the first session. But at some point during our talking, the person we're talking with may realize that actually something else is what they want. So what we do, I think, is we elicit an answer Because without an answer, there's no direction to the talking. How would I know what to invite people to focus on unless they give me an outcome? And yet, what I'm also going to do is to hold that outcome, that answer, the best hopes, lightly, rather than somehow becoming contractual in our thinking. That's what you said you wanted at the beginning of the piece of work, and that's what you have to have. So, of course, an outcome is required. And we talk as if the outcome is the outcome that they want. However, it may turn out not to be that. And of course, when we follow that up by asking people to describe the life that contains the outcome, we do indeed talk as if the life that they're describing is the life that contains the outcome. But actually, what the connection will be between the description that people give us and the life that ends up feeling and being satisfactory to the person we're talking with is quite unclear. It's actually not the detail of the talking that interests me. I behave as if it is. However, what actually interests me is inviting the client into a process of describing a more satisfactory future. And quite what that future is doesn't actually matter to me. And what the relationship will be between that description and the future that proves satisfactory is unclear. However, I talk and act as if the connection is clear and determined. So, EBTA Committee in Florence, thank you. Thank you for reminding me of this term, as if. And it led to some interesting thinking for me. And look, all of you, as I say, have a great time. I'm sure you will. And we'll really look forward to hearing the rumours emerging from Florence about all the new thinking and exciting thinking that has emerged during the course of your time together. And to all of you who've listened to this, I'd be very interested in your comments. And please feel free to share this if you think that other people could be interested in these as if thoughts. Have a great day.